by releasing unexpected and very entertaining images of Supreme Leader Kim Jong-un driving around in their brand new next-generation tank, the M2020. This latest showing has given us some new insight into whether or not it's a legit main battle tank to be feared, or if it's an elaborate mix of tractor parts and cardboard held together with duct tape. And if you answer that wrong, 10 years dungeon for you! The M2020 was first unveiled in October of 2020 during a military parade celebrating the 75th anniversary of North Korea's Communist Workers' Party. A total of 9 of these things drove down the main avenue during the parade, sporting what looked like modern optics, fire control systems, armor plating, and even active protection systems. I have about a million questions about this tank, starting with, why does it have an anti-tank guided missile on it? Was it a good idea or not? Will it be mass-produced and widely adopted? And what is North Korea's experience with tank warfare in the first place? But first, getting into car accidents is awful. If you haven't been in one yourself, you probably know someone who has. And if you have, you should know how to protect your rights. Morgan & Morgan has been helping injured people get proper compensation for their injuries for over 30 years. Morgan & Morgan is America's biggest injury law firm with over 100 offices nationwide, and they're big for a reason. They've won a lot. Just in the past couple of months, Morgan & Morgan saw verdicts of $12 million in Florida, 34 times the highest insurance offer, $26 million in Philadelphia, 40 times the highest insurance offer, $6.8 million in New York, 25 times the highest insurance offer. Morgan & Morgan has recovered over $20 billion for their clients, relied on about 200 of the Soviet-supplied T-34 tanks from Joseph. During the Korean War from 1950 to 1953, North Korea did not have its own domestically produced main battle tanks. They relied on about 200 of the Soviet-supplied T-34 tanks from Joseph Stalin, which they used to great effect in the early stages of the Korean War. But once the US entered the chat, those North Korean tanks got busted by American air superiority and more advanced US tanks. That's oversimplifying, of course. But the reason I bring up the gist of that story is to illustrate the fact that North Korea does not have a ton of experience in operating modern tanks on the tactical level in combat. One of the first things you might notice about the M2020 is just how visually distinct it is compared to what North Korea has shown off in the past. Historically, the country has always used a derivative of the Russian T-62 tank designs. But trade embargoes against them, especially in the realm of military equipment, have largely prevented North Korea from obtaining modern tank technology. That's why the M2020 is supposed to be a symbol of their defense industry's ability to produce despite the fact that they're under international sanctions. The tanks we do see are generally Frankenstein designs incorporating a base model T-62 with various overlapping additions from other tanks like your T-72s and your Type 88s that have managed to get pieces of them. Moving down, we can see that 7 road wheels mean it's not just a T-62 in makeup and actually a brand new design that we haven't seen before. Currently, North Korea fields 3 tank designs. You got your Chanmaho, your Pakpungho, and your Sangdong 915. And so between all these old tanks and new, they're estimated to have between 3,500 and 4,000 tanks in them. Typically, with each newer iteration of North Korean tank, a few incremental upgrades here and there are thrown onto it, but the M2020 quickly broke this trend and went absolutely balls to the wall with upgrades, attempting to take a leap forward here. On the turret of the M2020 sports what appears to be an impressive diversity of sights. The right side has a commander's independent thermal viewer, the gunner's sight is just seen below that, and a remote weapon system with its own thermal sights as well. And this is where one of the tank's strangest aspects jumps right out at you and makes you kind of scratch your head and go, oh, what? You'll notice it's got a dual-tube Bolsay 5 ATGM launcher located on the right side of the turret. Adding anti-tank guided missiles to a main battle tank isn't a new idea, but it's a very questionable one. Fossil Warren, an American M1 tank commander in the Gulf War and author of a few great books, had a great answer for why tanks usually do not have this kind of anti-tank guided missile, saying, quote, let's consider cost. One M829 series round costs less than $10,000, while one towed missile runs about $1,000. You should also consider other parts of logistics. The tow missile weighs a bit over 60 pounds, while the Sabo round weighs under 46 pounds. Finally, adding a tow missile launcher to the tank really doesn't give the tank any better chance to defeat enemy tanks than it already has mounted. But it could significantly complicate the logistical footprint of the tank as well as operating it, end quote. So according to that tank expert, anti-tank guided missiles wouldn't be worth the added weight, added cost, or added trouble. I think the decision to include external ATGMs on a tank is probably one of the weirdest design choices for the M2020. The launcher we typically see on vehicles like the Bradley and BMPs are primarily there as a defensive weapon against tanks, because their 25 or 30mm cannon lacks the power to punch through tank holes. To put it another way, actual main battle tanks don't need external ATGM launchers, because their main cannons can deliver kill shots faster, more accurately, and more reliably. So why then? Why would North Korea put one on there? I of course don't know the answer for sure, I don't have a direct line to Kim, but I would personally think it's what I would call a bit of military theater. I know military pageantry when I see it. They added those ATGMs because they look freaking cool, or more accurately, they look spooky and scary. These tanks and these parades are meant to posture and scare their opponents. Anything they can toss on there that looks like it has teeth is good for them. Additionally, there doesn't appear to be any kind of extra storage space for the additional missile ammo. Reloading would also be near impossible, as the placement of the launcher of the missile on the outside would require multiple crew members to dismount and reload. Other vehicles get around this by having rear hatches that allow the crew to stay inside the vehicle to reload, but the M2020 visually lacks anything of this design. It's the same reason North Korea does things like this to show how tough they are. There are cultural differences here that I could not even begin to wrap my head around, which explain why adding on extra, likely unnecessary weapons makes sense from their perspective. But to dive into the actual capabilities of these missile systems, the ATGMs that are on the tank, they are the latest North Korean Hornet missile clone. And according to North Korean reports, they can penetrate 1,100mm of steel armor from a range of 4 kilometers away, as well as a top attack function. The launcher itself is nearly identical to the American Bradley tow launcher in appearance. Similar to the M2 Bradley, the launcher is stowed in a vertical position and then raised to a parallel horizontal position of fire. So it could be possible maybe they have the ATGMs because they're worried that their tank main cannon cannot penetrate the hull of the adversarial tanks. Just look at the fact that it's got 3 separate secondary weapon systems. Your AGS-30 automatic grenade launcher, as opposed to the more traditional 12.7mm machine gun. It's got a 7.62 coaxially mounted machine gun on there. I believe some of these weapons serve the same purpose as an animal's brightly colored feathers that are designed to scare off predators. The M2020 contains a manned turret, but there has been some level of debate between experts as to whether it has a use of an autoloader or not. The specific layout of the turret in North Korea's tank design history implies that it would be a crew of 4, with one of them being a loader. However, we have only seen 3 crew members in any press releases. It could be that North Korea tank loaders are either too shy or not photogenic enough to be in front of cameras. We'll have to wait and find out. It's armed with 125mm main cannon derived from the Russian 2A-46. This gives it an effective range of about 3,000 meters firing bead or sabot rounds, and 4,000 meters for high explosive shells. It also appears to come with a muzzle reference system, or MRS, that uses laser detection to calculate barrel droop after sustained fire for better accuracy. Russian-designed tanks like the T-72, specifically the original 2A-46 cannon, developed by the Soviets, have the ability to fire cannon-launched missiles such as your 9M112 and 9M119. But the use of these anywhere has been near to non-existent. According to almost all reports, North Korea lacks both the ability to produce and maintain multiple types of ATGM rounds. And having more than one type of missile on a single tank would not make a ton of practical or tactical sense. Royal Korean-Su is the North Korean defense industry plant that I just mispronounced. It's responsible for building this, I believe. It's one of the main points for manufacturing tank locations in the mountainous Xinjiang, South Angola province. On the surface, the new tank looks like a combination of the American M1 Abrams and the Russian T-14 Armada. And you got your Chinese BT-4 influences in some areas. So this has led to some speculation that China or Russia provided some level of assistance in designing the tank, which would fall in line with trends of greater cooperation between North Korea and the other 2 countries. The electronics needed for a modern tank outclass those that can realistically be produced by North Korea. It could be that they're repurposing non-military technology from their trade with China and other countries into tank parts, or they're receiving manufacturing support from few friendly countries that they have. The speed at which the tank is developed, shown, to actually move around and shoot is either an indication that North Korea's manufacturing capabilities have increased, or more likely that other countries, specifically Russia and China and Iran, are lessening their trade restrictions. However, just throwing money into development won't magically make certain technologies appear out of thin air. It requires some form of outside assistance. While no technology on the M2020 is itself groundbreaking by any means, it's the fact that it was even able to be manufactured or produced by North Korea that is a sign of major significance of note for us. Main battle tanks, especially ones with modern optics and fire control systems, are incredibly complex and expensive to develop. Let's go out on a limb here and just assume all of this tank technology is real and actually works as advertised. For argument's sake, let's give Kim Jong-un the benefit of the doubt.